Afters by
Afters
Oleanderhoney.
by
Summary.
Oleanderhoney.
AU in which John
Chapter
Watson
2.
is Jane Watson.
Experiment.
Ongoing little bits of
Summary.
domestic fluff.
Sometime
Interspersed
later,
throughout
neither
the color
here
of
nor
light
there,
bars.
an experiment
to
goes
rot your
horribly
teeth.
awry.
Because let's face it, domestic fluffiness and
Sometime
sweet like
later,
desserts.
Sherlock,
Chapter 1.
Jane says,
Chinese.
as she stares into the fridge.
You're quite sure this is the
What?
best
He
Chinese in
snaps in the
Westminster?
middle of measuring out
Jane
a few
asks
units of nitric
suspiciously
acid
as
to
she
his
eyes
flask
the
of
dingy
hydrochloric
hole in the
acid.
wall that
The
was the
measurements
lucky
needed
cat.
to be exact, or
The glowing
I think the
sign
milk's
above the
gone off,
place only had
she
the
says,
L,
sprinkling her nose
C,
when she sniffs
K,
it.
and half of
He
the U
huffs the
lit up,
breath out of his mouth
and Jane
and
purses
sets
her
the
lips
beaker
in a half
down.
smile as she
He
reads it
lifts
out
up his
loud.
goggles for a second to
Lick.
irritably pinch the bridge of his nose
Appetizing.
before putting them back into place.
Oh, just
Fine.
trust me, Sherlock
He
rumbles.
tweaks the Bunsen burner
You can
and
always
his
tell a good
concoction to
Chinese
high.
by the bottom third of the door handle,
No,
he says,
it's definitely
and
gone off.
actually
I'm
pulls out
throwing it
his
out,
ruddy pocket
she
magnifier
says.
and inspects said handle from
Let
top
me
to
check,
bottom.
Sherlock says, and
Jane
holds out
leans
his
over,
hand.
curious.
She shrugs and gives it to him, and
Really?
he shakes it
How,
and pops
then?
open the carton,
She asks,
sniffing
knowing
delicately.
he's probably just bursting to tell her.
It's only
Show
the
off.
beginning stages of fermentation.
Sherlock
Keep it a
snaps
bit
the
longer.
magnifier closed and turns to her
Sherlock,
smugly.
we are not
There's
keeping
more
a carton
burnt
of
here
spoiled
on the
milk
bottom of the
for me to
handle, where
accidentally
more
poison
hands have
myself
been
with.
in contact with
Now
it.
give it here. I'm tossing
It's
it,
shinier than
she
the
says,
rest,
and
belying
leaps to
the
grab it
faint
back.
oils her fingertips naturally leave
He holds
behind.
it away.
Because it's the bottom
Jane,
two-thirds.
you poisoned
It
yourself with bad
speaks
milk.
of a specific
Besides,
clientele,
I can always test
people
the
who are
growth and
of Chinese
fermentation of yeast
persuasion,
when Jane manages
those
to go
authentic
for it
enough
again.
to warrant a
This
steady
time,
stream of said
her
customers
hand
and their
wraps around
families.
the carton just above Sherlock's.
So
She
you know
pouts,
this
but he
because
doesn't relent.
of the stereotype that
Really,
Asians are
this
short,
is childish.
Jane asks.
Now let go.
That's a bit
He
rude.
takes back.
I'm short, and so are
You
loads of
let
other
go,
people.
and you're calling me childish?
No, you're correct.
She says
The
incredulously,
stereotype is a
and her eyes
misconception.
narrow in the glare.
The average
She
height of a
pulls,
man
but
living
he
in
pulls back
China
almost
is 5'8",
instantly.
only half an
You
inch
are
to an
not
inch
throwing
shorter,
it out,
give
he
or take,
snarls.
than a man living in the
God,
UK.
I'll put a label on it if you're
Not
so
much of a
concerned.
difference to make any noticeable
His grip
change in the
tightens,
door handle
and he
polish,
steadily
wouldn't you
pulls
say?
to his side of the table,
No,
attempting
I'm
to
referring to
disadvantage
short
her
people of a different
due to her
variety.
height.
He smirks,
You'll
clearly
never
drawing it
label
out.
anything, she says,
Go on then, Mr.
baring her teeth,
Wikipedia.
and rises on
Enlighten me.
tiptoes, leaning forward.
Children, he replies, and Jane cocks
They
her head.
glare at each other in a
It's about
stalemate,
honor.
their fingers
The Chinese
squeezing the
believe in
garden
having the
ever tighter.
utmost respect for
When
their
suddenly,
elders,
the
and
bottom
given
gives
this
way,
is a family
and the contents
establishment,
go spilling
children
out and
frequent the
directly into
restaurant
the
often,
flask that it was
holding the
hovering
door
over.
open for their parents and grandparents as they enter.
Sherlock barely had time to realize the horror
Well,
of
then
the
that can only
situation
mean one thing,
before the
she
lactic acid in
remarks,
the
her
milk
stomach
reacted
growling.
to the other acids in the
What's
flask,
that?
causing it to
Sherlock
explode
asks.
with a gurgling bang
Damn good dim
that was
sum,
somewhat
she says,
reminiscent of
and
a
grabs the
champagne
handle,
bubble.
leaving Sherlock to chuckle
The
behind her.
bleeding hell! Jane yells,
Sherlock
and
didn't
staggers
know
back,
what he expected.
flinging her
He had
arms over
assumed
her
after
eyes,
the adrenaline faded,
just as Sherlock
Jane
leans
and he would go
against
back
the
to the
worktop.
awkward acquaintanceship and uneven
He could
footing
feel the sting
on
of the
which they started
acids
out.
working into his
He was
scalp and his
expecting
face
stilted
as the
conversation
concoction seeped into his
and
pores.
sidelong glances,
He tears
and
off his
if he
goggles
was
and suit
honest,
jacket
he was expecting
and
her to
wipes
get
the
up
dry sleeve of
and
his
put
shirt
as
over
much
his
distance
face.
as humanly possible between
Did
them.
any get in your eyes?
Because really,
Sherlock
she just
yells
shot a man in
and
cold
runs around
blood
the
for him.
table, just
But
as
neither of
Jane
those
steps
things
on a wet
happened.
patch and goes down to the floor.
Instead,
Fuck!
what happened
Ow!
was easy conversation
Yes, I
and
think so,
anecdotes
seeing
of
as
the
how it
past of all
exploded in my
things,
face,
like
she
normal
says
people.
weakly, and he
But
pulls
she was
her
shocked
arm
to
away
find he didn't
to
mind at
prevent
all.
further contamination.
There was
He
nothing about
practically
Jane
rips
that
the knit
bored him,
cardigan she was
and he
wearing
listened
off of
with
her
rapt
and
attention
holds her to her
when she
feet.
talked about her military
She
service
whimpers
in
in pain
Afghanistan,
and tips her head
her
back
sister,
against his shoulder,
and their adventures
her
when they were
eyes
girls,
tightly shut,
and her
as he helps her
insufferable
down
mother.
the hall to the
The tone
bathroom.
was light, and the
He
company
frantically turns on the
hurtless.
waterful blast,
She does not
not
mention
letting go
getting
of
shot,
her for a second.
or her father,
And when the
and
ancient
for
pipes
once,
finally manage
Sherlock
to
doesn't
pump
press
the
the
water
matter.
through the shower head,
When
he
their food
wastes no
comes,
time dragging
Sherlock
her into
eats
the
with
tableau.
gusto, but he peeks up at Jane
Tilt your head
every
back
so
and try to
often
keep your
from
eyes
under his
open,
lashes.
he says, and
Despite
brushes the
knowing
hair
how
back from
hungry
her
she
face,
must be,
so as much
she
water
doesn't
can
eat
get
as
into her
fast, and
impossibly
ends up
red eyes.
pushing the pieces
It
of her
hurts,
ginger duck
she
around the
hisses,
plate
but
more
does as
often
she
than
is
not,
told, shivering
She
slightly.
nibbles on some cabbage, and
He
he
sets to
pauses
work
halfway
scrubbing off his hands
to
with the
bring the
bar of
dumpling
soap,
to his mouth.
and when he's satisfied that
He
they're clean
huffs
enough,
and rolls his
takes to
eyes,
her hands as
setting
well,
his chopsticks down,
rubbing up
and
her
without
arms
saying
all the way to
anything,
the sleeves
he
of her
switches
t-shirt,
their plates.
just to be safe.
I told you
After
you
a
should have
moment,
let me
she
order for
asks,
you. Sherlock
"What
grumbles
about you?
in mock
Did
irritation.
it get in your eyes?"
Okay,
"No.
so maybe the duck
Thankfully,
was
I
a
was
bit
wearing
ambitious,
goggles when you decided to
Jane
engage
says,
in a
digging
bloody
into
tug
the
of war
orange
with
chicken
me
he just
over
stuck in front of
expired
her.
dairy products."
I'm not good, but
He
my dinner
grumbles with
still
mock
has its face
annoyance and
attached.
pulls the elastic band out of her
Then
hair.
why did you order it?
She chuckles
Didn't want to be
weakly and
predictable,
leans into him,
she
the
says.
pain making her knees tremble.
Well, how is it now?
Stupid.
Delicious,
Stupid of
she
him.
says, around a
Careless.
mouthful of food.
He
I
dollops
can
a
see
good
why you
portion
like
of
it.
shampoo into his palm
Oh,
and
I
whirls it
don't,
into her scalp
he says with a quirk
before
of his
attending
lips.
to his own hair and face.
What?
He hisses,
I prefer the duck,
his
face
cheek
and
and
all.
the bridge of
He
his nose
winks.
stinging more than he was initially
You
aware of.
ordered the chicken
"Come on,
just to trade with me
your
later.
turn," Jane says, and
Yes,
shifts down
and because
so
I
that
knew it
Sherlock
would be your
is
favorite.
under the direct line
I'll
of
be quite
spray.
surprised if you ever order anything else
"What
from
about
now
your
on,"
eyes?"
he says, licking some
even
sauce
though
off the
the
pad
cool
of his
water
thumb.
running over his skin is a relief.
The look on her face told him he was probably
"The
right,
burning is mostly gone,
and she
and
narrows
it
her
looks like you
eyes.
didn't manage to blind
Do
me,
you
but
ever
it's
get
fine,"
tired of showing off?
she says,
Nope,
through a wry
he
grin.
says, popping the bee
She
with a
reaches
smack
out
of his
and scrubs the
lips.
shampoo through his hair,
Bug?
her fingernails
Bite.
gently scraping
She
his scalp
laughs
and
and throws a
soothing the
fortune
raw
cookie
pain.
at his head, which he
They're
catches
quiet for a
deftly.
while as the water runs
Go
over
on
them,
then. Guess by
and
fortune
Sherlock
if you're
can't
so
help
clever.
but
And
feel
Sherlock rips
slightly
open the
nauseated.
package eagerly.
If he hadn't diluted the
Be
hydrochloric
prepared to
acid
be
as much as he
amazed.
did, this could have ended very differently. He opens
After
his
dinner,
mouth to say
they
something,
head back to Baker
when he's
Street
abruptly
and up
cut
the
off
steps as
by another
quietly as
sting
they
of
can,
pain to his cheek.
so as to not disturb Mrs. Hudson.
"Sorry," Jane
They
says,
walk in and
lowering
hang
her
up the
fingers from her
respective
probing.
coats, and as if they
She
had been
looks
living
up
there
at
for
him,
years,
a
Jane
greyness
says,
suddenly coming over
"Tea?"
her.
To which Sherlock
"I am
grunts,
sorry,
"Yes,
I mean,"
please,"
she
and
says
flops
quietly.
down onto the sofa
"You're
to
right.
think.
It was childish."
He presses his palms together
Sherlock
and
blinks,
touches the tips
taken
of his
aback.
fingers to the bottom of his chin.
"Oh, but of course Jane
After
would
the kettle's
apologize for
boiled,
something. It
Jane
was
comes
hardly her
over and
fault.
sinks into the
It was
space next to
Jane."
him, and he idly takes
Ironically,
the steaming mug
this
from her.
doesn't make him feel any
He
better.
takes a sip before he
He
realizes
clears
it's
his throat.
smoky and sweet,
"Yes, well,
perfectly the way he
perhaps
likes
you
it.
weren't the only one being an idiot. And you
How
couldn't
did you
have
know?
possibly had the foresight to know my experiment
I'm
would
not
have
the
reacted
only
the
one
way
who's
that it did,"
predictable on occasion, Sherlock
he says,
Holmes, she
and without
says,
really
and props her
thinking,
legs up
he
on the
pushes
coffee
the hair
table,
out of her eyes once
ankles
more.
crossed.
"I
He
think
grunts
there's
again,
an
still
apology
not
in there
used to being
somewhere,
surprised so
but I can't
regularly
be
by
sure,"
someone so ordinary.
she says with a smile,
No,
and resumes her examination of
not
the burn on
ordinary
his
at
cheek,
all. Something
more gently
undefined.
this time.
So,
"That's going
Moriarty?
to need to be addressed.
She asks.
Come on, let's get out of these
He
wet clothes,
says,
and you
staring
can
off
clean
into
the
the
kitchen
distance.
while I make tea."
Who is he? No
The
idea.
end.
The possibilities are vast. He's some sort of specialist, a consulting criminal. From what I gather, people go to him for help, big or small, as long as he has something to gain from the investment. The real question is, how far does this Moriarty's reach extend? I'm sure he would already be on Mycroft's radar if he were in such a shadow. No doubt he would have contacted me by now for my help. Whatever or whoever Moriarty is, it's big, and I have apparently caught his eye, Sherlock says, and sips his tea, which was rapidly cooling. He's still deep in thought when he registers Jane's side gently beside him. He looks over and finds her nestled into the couch cushions, fast asleep, with her cup of tea, cold by now probably, resting in her lap. He takes it from her loose fingers before it tips over and puts both mugs into the sink. "Jane," he says quietly and nudges her shoulder. She hums, her eyes still closed. "Oh, I should get a cab. It's late." "Yes, it is," Sherlock says and sits on the coffee table. He takes her left foot and plucks apart the laces of her shoe. "I'll come over first thing tomorrow morning with my stuff," she murmurs. "Good idea." He sets to work on the right one. "Might need a key." I'll have one made directly, he says, and tucks her shoes next to the sofa. Lay down now. Jane mumbles and sighs once more, but only shimmies down further into the cushions. Sherlock rolls his eyes and gently guides her to lie on her side, one hand cupping the side of her face and the other tucking her legs, so she fit comfortably between the two armrests. She was really rather small, and it was only in her vulnerable, relaxed state that Sherlock realized this. Jane had always presented herself as a hard, commanding presence that instantly filled any room, regardless of if she had anything to say or not. It was impressive, the list of things he managed to overlook when it all boiled down. Without anything more, he goes into the hall and grabs a faded afghan of Mrs. Hudson's from the cupboard and spreads it over her sleeping form. With that, he plops into his armchair, settling in for a long night of numerous possibilities. The end.